financial services industry, supporting the economy, you are here to uphold. And to uphold anything means that you're raising it like a banner. You're raising a standard. Distinguished delegates, you represent a standard. You are the standard bearers of moving forward after 50 years for the financial service economy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, all this is just basically an introductory, interactive, enterprise communicator with her audience session, because really we are waiting for some of our distinguished special guests of honor to finish converging, I believe, in the holding room. And once we have them, we'll have them brought in. So I just wanted to let you know that you are on time. You are in the right place and in the right city. You are very welcome. And as you've been so punctual, we'd like to respectfully acknowledge your presence here and let you know that we will be starting immediately. We have the principals in terms of the special guests of honor seated in the room. But I will just continue and just very quickly finish with, the whole business of words, because for the rest of this event, we'll be moving at a very professional speed, making sure that the interventions are not going to be in any way delayed by too much interactive discourse. So I'll just very quickly put together my own words at this point. I looked at the word professionalism, and I thought to myself, now, what is that? It's about a deliberate ethical capacity for you to work what is innovative and produce your corporate brand integrity. That's your professionalism in the place of financial service. I looked at what we would term as that which is financial. Yes, it talks about finances, it talks about that which is to be financed, but most importantly, it talks about your financier. The financier being you corporately and the entity that you represent in terms of partnership. I looked at the service, and this was what really touched me. When we're talking about services, we're looking at the will to serve. Are you a true server? Are you ready to serve the true, unadulterated interest without any hidden agenda and work through a transformational process after 50 years to bring about change? Because principally, you are the principal actors and actresses of that new transformational change that we need. I was privileged, along with another person, to host the NESG, and this year, working with the summit and its theme on agriculture as a transformational enterprise. The most important thing, Mr. President, and the rest of the CEO company cluster that came in underscored was the fact that this enterprise needs a partnership that works in the place of financial service. It's not just about the single digit. It is about the fact that you represent that singular digit of change as a financial service provider. So we need our bankers. We need a banking institution that does that and does it with the innovation capacity, but most importantly, the integrity. And finally, I thought, probably as a Nigerian enterprise, I'm in the creative economy. I look at it and I say, as a Nigerian entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur, what am I asking from my financial service institution like CIBN? I am asking a simple question. Can I trust you? Sirs and Maz, in my heart, I thought CIBN should be able to tell us, as a polity of entrepreneurs, yes, you can. This morning, you are the ones that make the difference. You are the ones that bring the answer to the questions. You close the gap. You bring the real transformation. I congratulate you. 50 years, you've gone gold. And it's time that we move forward with every golden opportunity. Welcome to your conference and welcome to your time. I'd like to celebrate you and ask you, please, at this point, to celebrate that person next to you. Say welcome. It's a Happy New Year time. Celebrate them. Celebrate. My distinguished bankers, celebrate the person seated next to you. I appreciate that person you haven't seen in 1 year. I appreciate all of the very distinguished cluster of people around you. It's so easy for us to take ourselves for granted. But most importantly, we know that we can work our change and work it now. Once again, my name is DBL, Dio Benjamin Lani, and I trust it's not just going to be a pleasure, it is a very unique privilege, and I am humbled, and I appreciate my opportunity to be your host, enterprise communicator, MC, VEC, altogether, anyway, I'm simply here at your service. Thank you. With him on Tumba, Mrs. Debola Oshibogun, FCIB, First Vice President, Deacon Segun Ajibola, PhD, FCIB, Second Vice President, and Dr. Uche M. Olowu, FCIB National Treasurer. We'd like to welcome them. Also, we'd like to acknowledge with them Mr. Godwin Emefiele. And of course, today, HCIB, our very distinguished chairman of the Consultative Committee, Conference Consultative Committee, MD, CEO of Nigeria's biggest bank, and definitely right now, one of our very distinguished hosts for this event. Once they're properly seated, we will take the anthem. We have them all in position. Shall we take the national anthem? Okay, just a minute, please, once we have them. Thank you very much. The national anthem, let's remain standing, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Arise, O to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. Amen. One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. You may be seated. Thank you. Distinguished delegates all, the first line of the second verse of the national anthem declares, O God of creation, direct our noble course. And we established that today as the protocols by way of an opening prayer. Interestingly enough, it has been adopted as what is referred to within the protocols here, within the FCT, as the national prayer. So it is calling on that direction for this course of the Institute of Chartered Bankers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that I welcome everyone to this 50th Jubilee Conference and event celebrating a new transformational pathway of gold for sustainable financial services and a transformational financial sector. You are welcome. My name is Dayo Benjamins Lani. Professionalism as an institutional asset is not just a service as defined by this year's theme, it is an industry. I would at this point, on behalf of the very eminent cluster of the office holders of the CIBN, our President and Chairman of Council, Mr. Segun Aina OFR FCIB, please a round of applause for him again, along with his first and second vice presidents, Otumba Mrs. Debola Oshibogun FCIB and Deacon Segun Ajibola PhD FCIB, as well as the National Treasurer Dr. Uche M. Olowu FCIB. We'd like to very properly welcome everyone and now establish the very distinguished rank and file of recognitions for this conference. Still expected is the representative of our special guest of honor, and she has very properly acknowledged that even though she's a little delayed due to some executive demands of office, She will be coming in at the earliest opportunity of her ability to leave that particular assignment. So we're expecting the Honorable Minister of Finance, Coordinating Minister of the Economy. Today, we would like to properly acknowledge along with our very distinguished delegates, conference delegates here, the distinguished presence of all of the banking CEOs, but today in particular, I would like to acknowledge the lead CEO of all banking and financial institutions in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the governor of the CBN, here represented by the Deputy Governor, Alhaji Suleiman Barau, OON, FCIB. Please let's put our hands together, celebrate and acknowledge his presence here with us. We'd also like once again to acknowledge a man of iconic reference, an elder statesman, and within the financial institutional industry, a man of first representations, Chairman First Bank Group, Honeywell Group of Companies, Dr. Oba Otudeko, CFR, FCIB. Also today, I'd like us to acknowledge Alhaji Umaru Ibrahim, FCIB, our Managing Director, NDIC. Please, a round of applause as we appreciate and acknowledge his distinguished presence here. Mr. Godwin Emefiele, HCIB, Chairman, Conference Consultative Committee, and MD CEO, Zenith Bank, PLC. We have representing the head of service, Mr. Clement Uwaifo. Please, a round of applause. Let's appreciate him here today. And for the Institute, we'd like to acknowledge here with us all of the distinguished core, very, very distinguished and eminent core of past presidents, His Royal Highness Eze Professor G.O. Nwankwo, OON, FCIB. We have with us Mr. J.O. Ekodayo, FCIB. Professor Wale Adeomi, FCIB. Mrs. Juliet Madubweze, OON, FCIB. We'd also like to acknowledge our very distinguished cluster of past registrars, chief executives, Mr. A.A. Adenubi, FCIB, Chief S.O. Dada, FCIB, Mr. Esson Oguleya, FCIB, distinguished conference delegates, along with your very distinguished presence here, we acknowledge everyone as representing the sector of financial enterprise and institutional change, all branch representatives of CIBN, all of the sectoral association representatives. I'd like to acknowledge at this point our Secretary of the Governing Council, Dr. Uju M. Ogubunka, FCIB. Thank you very much. And our Registrar Chief Executive. Please, let's put our hands together and very robustly appreciate him. He has been transacting all of the spaces, making sure that there is an interlock, and of course, the efficiency of this enterprise, particularly this 2013 conference, is very properly navigated. And today, once again, we celebrate him and we celebrate the institution. Without further ado, yes, let's put our hands together and really celebrate and appreciate. It's not just a service, it is an industry, and it's not just a sector, it's a transformational pathway. Yes, the Institute of Chartered Bankers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Right now we welcome for his welcome address, Mr. Segun Aino, OFR, FCIB, and President, Chairman of Council. Well, let's make him feel really welcome.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As we commence the program for the 7th Annual Banking and Finance Conference of the Chartered of Bankers of Nigeria, I want to warmly welcome all of you to the opening ceremony, and indeed to welcome all participants to this two-day conference. But in a very special way, I want to welcome and thank the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR, for accepting to be the special guest of honor at this event. Even though he had accepted the invitation, he had indicated that he will not be able to be here in person, and has delegated that assignment to the coordinating minister for the economy, and that's the minister for finance, who, as at 5 minutes ago, has still indicated that she will be joining us because she's chairing the EMT Economic Management Team meeting, and she should be here with us any moment from now. I also acknowledge the support of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Governor Alhaji Lamido Sanusi, who will be delivering the keynote address at this event. Alhaji Lamido Sanusi has been a very strong supporter of the Institute and has believed in ensuring that this will continue to grow from strength to strength. But he has another engagement, and we have with us representing him, Alhaji Suleiman Barau, a fellow of the Institute, and we are very happy to have you, Alhaji Suleiman Barau. So thank you very much for coming. To you, highly distinguished personalities here, and I want to especially recognize our father, our brother, our banking icon. You know, a lot of people, because Dr. Obatudeko has traversed the business world for many, many years, a lot of people forget that he is actually a banker, that he started his life as a banker, and he became a banking executive before he moved to the business world. So I want to really recognize you, sir, Dr. Obatudeko. And we're always very, very proud of you and the accomplishment that you have recorded. And I want to, on behalf of the also, say many happy returns of the day to you. I know you were 70, August 18, and you ran away from everybody. You ran away from everybody. You were trying to do some things, but we'll still come to see you in Lagos officially. The council has decided to come and present something to you specially to mark your birthday. So thank you very much, sir, for coming. Now, coming back home, I would like to give due recognition to the Institute's first Vice President, Otumba Mrs. Debola Oshibogun, FCIB, the second Vice President, Deacon Dr. Shegun Ajibola, FCIB, the National Treasurer, Dr. Ushe Olowu, FCIB, and the Governing Council members who are here today, and all of whom have continued to make significant contribution to the development of the Institute. And of course, we value the services, the commitment, and the presence in our midst today. The past president of the Institute, they've been supporting, they've been pillar support for us, and we're happy to have 4 of them here today. Is Professor Green Nwanko. We thank you very much, sir, for coming. Mr. Femi Ekundayo, thank you very much for being here. Professor Oluwole Adewumi, thank you. And last, but definitely not the least, the one and only lady president so far, Mrs. Juliet Madubwese. We thank you very much, ma, for being here. Our fellows, associates, honoraries, non-members, managing directors of banks, and I think we have a number of them here, starting from Mr. Godwin Emefiele, the managing director of Zenith Bank, who's also the chairman of the planning committee for this event. Thank you very much for your services and for being here. Dr. Alex Oti, the group managing director of Diamond Bank. Dr. Alex Oti, FCIB, so welcome. And Omar Aviz, the managing director of Citibank. We thank you very much for being here. Even though I know Mr. Andrew Ali will be introduced later because he's participating in one of the sessions. I thank you very much, Mr. Andrew Ali, the managing director of African Finance Corporation. And of course, very, very important to us in the banking industry and the institute is the managing director of the NDIC. We had invited him to come and sit on the top table, but he's a very humble person. He said, no, let me just sit where I am. We thank you very much, sir, for coming. Our other members of the Institute, gentlemen of the press, I acknowledge your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference has come a long way. Its history can be traced to 1982, when it started as a delegates conference, hosted in turns by branches and focusing more at promoting understanding and interaction among branches of the Institute. The name was changed to Bankers Conference in 1994, when the horizon was broadened to include deliberations on issues beyond branch concerns. It was renamed the Banking and Finance Conference in 2007, during which time it was designated as an annual event to be held in Abuja. The scope of participation was enlarged to cover the entire spectrum of the financial services industry, and also to make it a general learning platform for members and other stakeholders. The conference currently aims at generating solution-focused ideas and expanding the knowledge of participants around key topical and contemporary issues. The previous 6 editions have provided a stimulating forum for discussion on a wide range of issues facing the banking and finance industry in particular and the economy at large. It has played important and significant roles in articulating ideas that have contributed to the determined efforts of the monetary and fiscal authorities to ensure a robust and integrated financial sector and economy, and at the end, communiques were issued and circulated to all stakeholders. This 7th in the series of the conference, designated as the 50th anniversary edition, will not be an exception. As you all very know, our institute is celebrating the 50th anniversary this year, having been founded in 1963. So all our major events for this year are designated 50th anniversary edition. It is delightful to observe that a number of major policy recommendations in our previous conferences have been or are being implemented by relevant authorities. For instance, in 2007, the conference recommended the establishment of a credit bureau that will significantly help in the credit risk management function, and we are glad to note that credit bureaus are now in existence in Nigeria today. We also advocated in the same year for banks to collaborate among themselves for efficiency of resource allocation, and today there are shared services initiatives that banks have established which have reduced the operating costs and improved the efficiency. In 2008, the conference recommended that key ministers appointed to head key VEDA ministries should be assigned specific and measurable deliverables, and that has happened. In that same year, the conference canvassed the establishment of Sovereign Infrastructure Fund, and today, the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund is in place and functioning. In the year 2009 and 2010, the conference recommended the fast-tracking of the proposal for the development of a competency framework. And you are all aware that in November 2012, the Central Bank released the guidelines for the implementation of the competency framework for the Nigerian banking industry, with the Institute as the sole accreditation and certification agency. However, there are other key recommendations for which we are expecting positive outcomes. These include issues related to the diversification of the economy away from oil, given the uncertainties of the oil and gas sector globally. This has become imperative, especially with the threat posed by the quest for alternative energy sources and the discovery of shale oil and gas. Also, the issue of unique and coordinated national identification program is yet to be completed, while provision of adequate infrastructure still remains a major challenge. These are some of the recommendations that we made in previous years, and we are hoping that government will fast-track efforts in ensuring that this happen. It is therefore appropriate that as we celebrate this 50th anniversary of our institute, we should focus on the very foundational mandate and objective of our revered profession. This is the reason why we have chosen as the theme of this year's conference the subject Upholding Professionalism in the Financial Services Industry, Supporting the Economy. Indeed, this is the right time to take another critical look at professionalism, which is the core mandate of our institute, and rededicate ourselves to our primary responsibility as bankers and financial services providers. Banks, bankers, and the Institute of Bankers, Society of Bankers of Nigeria, have indeed been supporting the economy, and we do more, especially through the financial intermediation role. Banks' support for the real sector of the economy is very critical and necessary. However, the public expectation for the banking system to fully support the real sector, which in most cases requires long-term funding and lower, or what we call single-digit interest rates, may not be met by the banks alone, in view of the current tenure structure of their deposit liabilities and high total cost of funds. While our banks are expected to be creative in this respect and leverage on their relationships with suppliers of long-term funds within and outside Nigeria, on the suppliers of long-term funds within and outside Nigeria, there is the need for government to accelerate the various mechanisms for providing special intervention funds and other incentives that will reduce funding costs and provide long-term financing to the real sector, especially agriculture and manufacturing sector. The Institute will continue to be a partner in progress in all the initiatives aimed at deepening banking knowledge and improving delivery of top-class financial services to the Nigerian populace, as well as ensure consumer protection. In this respect, CIBN is committed to producing and attracting world-class banking talents, which is one of the deliverables under the Financial Sector Strategy, FSS 2020, coordinated by the Central Bank of Nigeria. We appreciate the support of the National Assembly, in particular the relevant committees of the National Assembly, for giving due attention to relevant banking bills, especially those related to the FSS 2020 initiatives. For example, one of the bills relates to the creation of the Office of the Financial Ombudsman. The Society of Bankers of Nigeria has coordinated and acted as the Secretariat for the Ethics and Professionalism Subcommittee of the Bankers Committee, playing the role of Ombudsman for the banking industry, an assignment we have performed creditably. To ensure that the Office of the Financial Ombudsman, when created through the appropriate act, takes off speedily, the Society of Bankers of Nigeria is willing to make available the expertise and structure already established and functioning for that purpose. I hope the Central Bank governor is listening to that. It is my firm belief that this conference will provide a unique opportunity for players in the financial services industry to explore, share experiences, and identify strategies to be pursued in ensuring that the financial services industry effectively plays its expected role in supporting economic development. This will be the center of our deliberations for the next 2 days, and I accordingly enjoin everyone to participate fully in the various sessions and come up with recommendations and ideas that will grow the Nigerian economy in a sustainable manner and in the right direction. I have no doubt that this will be achieved as we are lined up as resource persons, session chairmen, guest speakers, and panelists who are accomplished men and women, erudite scholars, and acknowledged subject matter experts in their various fields. We have very high expectations from this conference, and I have no doubt that it will be a time valuably spent for all of us. In the usual tradition, I assure you that the communique that will emerge at the end of the conference will be widely publicized and presented to all stakeholders for consideration, adoption, and implementation. My very distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you once again and wish you all very fruitful deliberation at this conference. Thank you very much for your attention.
And thank you very much, Mr. Shegwaino, OFR FCIB, President, Chairman of Council, for those words profiling this conference and also giving us a substantive insight into the outlook. It's a foundational mandate and objective, deepening financial knowledge. And talking about the expectations being high, there's a popular prayer that our expectations will not be cut off in a time of power transformational sectors. The language also says that we may be able to transmit and generate this expectation to a place of active agenda. So be it. And do I hear an amen? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. At this point, we'd now like to, once again, let's put our hands together and appreciate very much Mr. President's profile. I'd like to acknowledge with us the representative of the President of CITN, Dr. Mrs. Teju Shomori, Vice President. Please, let's put our hands together. I don't know where she is, Mrs. Shomori. Also here today, we have the President of ANAN, represented by S.U. Ladan and Mrs. Rukaya Yusuf. Please, let's put our hands together for them. Today as well, we'd like to acknowledge Director of Banking, Supervision, CBN, Mr. Fakunle. A round of applause for him. Of course, we have with us, and we acknowledge again, Mr. Umar Hafiz, the Citibank Managing Director. Along with him as well, I'd like to acknowledge our distinguished MD, Diamond Bank. Please put your hands together again for also Chairman Body of Bankers CEO, Mr. Alex Ote, FCIB, and our MD, CEO, African Finance Corporation, Mr. Andrew Ali. Please, a round of applause for all of our very distinguished recognitions. Oh, we have with us right now let's welcome the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Yerima Ngama. Please, let us welcome him. I also see here that he is representing our special guest of honor, unless otherwise indicated, our special guest of honor being Mr. President. So I think we were in the wrong position welcoming him into the room. Please, let's welcome the special guest of honor here, represented by the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Yerima Ngama. Thank you very much. You're very welcome, sir. And now for the keynote, I'd like to invite Alhaji Suleiman Barau, OON FCIB, representing the Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria. A round of applause as we receive him.
The President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, here represented by the Honorable Minister of State Finance, Dr. Yerima Lawal Ngama, the President, CIBN, and other current officials of CIBN, past presidents of CIBN, including those of them that were board members of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Professor Nwanko and Chief Mrs. Juliet Madubweze, my leader, Kabesi Oba Otedeko, the MD, NDIC. He has decided not to sit at the high table, and he's sitting indeed on the second row together with his officials and the past executive director, Prof, duly recognized, managing directors of banks. I noticed that somebody was introduced from CBN, Banking Supervision, but the director of Banking Supervision is here. Let me recognize her as well. Last week, when the governor was attending at the signing ceremony of Dangote facility, he said that outside Bankers Committee, the only person who is able to gather bank MDs is Aliko Dangote at one place. But let me add that the Director of Banking Supervision is also able to call bank MDs. the registrar of CIBN, past and present, fellows and members of CIBN, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. When I was introduced here this morning, I was called Suleiman Barrow, ON, and FCIB. I'm happy that that was remembered also, because the FCIB is also very important to me. But what is even additionally important is that I'm also the chairman of the fundraising committee of the 50th. That was not mentioned. And I'm sure Alex will be happy that we as members are happy. And today I was discussing with Otumba. She was talking about fundraising issues, not about representing the governor. Let me send the apologies of the governor of the central bank. Indeed, we are very happy to associate ourselves with the activities of CIBN at all times. Unfortunately, the governor is not able to be present personally. He sends his best wishes to the president and the council and members, and to you all. He congratulates CIBN for organizing this event, and has given me a long speech to read, which I'm going to read as a dutiful staff. So bear with me. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to be in your midst this morning to present the keynote address at this very important conference for eminent bankers, financial experts, policymakers, and the business community on the theme upholding professionalism in the financial services industry, supporting the economy. This conference provides a unique opportunity for us as regulators and supervisors, chief executives and operators of banks, and experts in financial services industry to share our views on best practices, which, if properly entrenched, should ensure that the industry plays its catalytic role in the development of Nigeria's economy. I therefore commend the organizers of this event for thinking along this line. This theme is not only apt, but very timely, considering the importance of a strong financial services sector for economic growth and economic prosperity. As we know, the financial services industry remains the critical sector of the economy. The critical roles of the industry in the transmission of economic policies and the provision of the hub and lubricant to the wheels of the economy, including providing funding for economic agents, make a very compelling argument for it to be adequately managed. Also, financial institutions, particularly the banks, are generally highly leveraged, which makes them vulnerable to booms and bust cycles. Indeed, a robust and stable financial services industry is an absolute necessity for a functioning economy. I would like to highlight some of the efforts that regulators in the financial industry have undertaken to entrench good corporate governance. A major concern for regulators and supervisors of the financial services industry today is ensuring accountability by all concerned, given the separation of ownership from control, which implies a loss of effective control by shareholders over managerial decisions. The issue of good governance is therefore an imperative for ensuring successful corporate performance. Building good corporate governance is a shared responsibility among all stakeholders, each of whom may exert pressure to move an institution in slightly different and conflicting direction. Prior to the recent reforms in the financial services industry, the following legislations and institutions, among others, influence operations of corporate enterprises. First is CAMA, the Companies and Allied Matters Act, 1990, Investment and Securities Act, 1999, and earlier legislations, including BOFIA, Bank and Other Financial Institutions Act, 1991, as subsequently amended, and indeed an institution like the Nigerian Stock Exchange, including its listing requirements. In addition, the Central Bank of Nigeria has recognized the importance of good corporate governance in the banking industry. Following the conclusion of the banking consolidation program in 2005, a code of corporate governance for banks in Nigeria was issued to the banking sector, and it became effective in April 2006. The Code of Conduct was designed to enhance good corporate governance practices within the industry in view of the observed weak practices at the time. To address these challenges, the CBN had since commenced a review of the Code of Conduct guidelines to provide clear guidelines on all aspects of governance and enhance corporate governance practices in banks and discount houses. These include, that is, some of the provisions include that the governor and the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the managing director, CEO of NDIC and his executive directors shall not be eligible for appointment in any capacity after they leave the banks until after 5 years of their exit. In the case of departmental directors of CBN and NDIC, they shall not be eligible for employment in any institutions in the financial system until after the expiration of 3 years, as the case may be. Despite these efforts, there are still instances of formidable challenges in the practice of good corporate governance in Nigeria's financial services industry today. There is lack of capacity on the part of board members to establish strategic direction, operational standards, and the dearth of risk management personnel, lack of benchmark for risk tolerances and monitoring systems. Other challenges include lack of proper coordination, uniformity in standards of best practices, and enforcement of various laws and regulations within the financial services industry. Let me state here that investments in capacity building for the empowerment of board members for general effective oversight and enhancement of institutional infrastructure will be necessary for the industry. In addition, a well-designed monitoring system will allow the board to hold management accountable for operating within established tolerances. Regulators and supervisors on their own part must rise to the high level of expertise and understanding of emerging market instruments and practices to develop models, assumptions, and risk views of financial institutions and certify the risk management of the institutions, while cooperation and coordination among regulators should be strengthened going forward. It is important to state that in a perfect world, directors of a company serve as a check on the excesses of management. But where the directors themselves collude and are involved, it becomes difficult to protect other stakeholders' interests. Therefore, augmented skill sets and experience at the level of independent directors will go a long way in enhancing the capacity of the boards. Effective risk management, effective risk governance also demands that each director is aware of the breadth of risks faced by the bank. Directors add value to the board only when they have the financial expertise and are aware of the risk fundamentals and techniques available to them, and are also aware of the management dynamics. As a regulator and supervisor of the financial services industry, the Central Bank of Nigeria often comes across some harmful practices embarked upon by top management, and sometimes with the active collusion of board members, which are detrimental to the interests of the other stakeholders in these institutions. These include large-scale insider loans to management staff, directors, major shareholders, and their relations, and companies that are these loans eventually become non-performing. While the central bank continues to pursue ethical practices in the financial services industry, operators must also live up to their responsibility and protect the interests of all stakeholders. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me state clearly that regulators and supervisors in the financial services industry cannot alone guarantee an end to the financial instability that comes from weak corporate governance practices. The board must satisfy itself that the implementation, the integrity, and the maintenance of effective risk management systems are not compromised in the institutions that they supervise. Management must keep directors adequately informed about risk-taking activities and must ensure that strategic direction and risk tolerances are effectively communicated and adhered to throughout the length and breadth of the organization. The quality of supporting human resources and organizational orientation and backup should also be addressed by the institutions. Before concluding this remark, let me reiterate that when investors invest, the expectation is that companies will be run according to sound business principles that minimize the possibilities for corrupt practices and mismanagement. This expectation is legitimate and must be protected. Similarly, when creditors, particularly the depositors, decide to part with their savings, they have expectations that they are entrusting their funds to a trusted and honest management, and therefore expect the safety of and good returns from their funds. When this is undermined, then the public confidence in the financial services industry is eroded, and the economy becomes the loser and the worse for it. This is a practice that the central bank and other regulators indeed will not accept. To this effect, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite you to a productive debate in which your input will be important in coming up with invaluable contribution that will help to ensure high ethical standards and professionalism in the financial service industry for the safety and soundness of the financial system, and at the same time guarantee stable macroeconomic environment for Nigeria as we move towards 2020. Once again, I urge you to make use of this opportunity. We'll congratulate the CIBN for organizing this event, and we hope that you will all contribute in making sure that the deliberations that come out of this event are useful and are implementable, and we look forward to receiving them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Alhaji Suleiman Rao, OON, FCIB. Yes, indeed, the regulator is not a predator. He is a stakeholder. And this is a transformational enterprise, and one that takes everyone working and building corporate governance from a place of shared responsibility. Thank you very much, sir. And I'd like to make a very critical correction, please. The Director of Banking Supervision for CBN, and this is an affirmative correction, is Madame Agnes Martins. Please, we'd like to properly acknowledge her here. Thank you. Thank you. So that's an affirmative correction, and we are moving in an affirmative direction. You know. So having affirmed the fact that I'm a sister to another sister in a place of transactional space, I would now like to invite someone who's already been introduced as His Royal Highness. In Yoruba, we will say Kiade Kibata Pelese Kiade Belori, that the crown may remain long on the head and that those royal feet may always be properly shod. Please help me welcome Dr. Oba Otudeko for a few words.
The president of the institute, my brother Otumba Shegun Aina, the honorable minister, again another brother. He can look that big, he's a younger brother. Also, the governor, here represented by the handsome light-skinned one. You know, you get infected by the environment in which you operate. So when he called me his leader, then I thought he's getting political. You know, because politicians, when they want to outdo one another, they call themselves leader. But so, the following day, you may discover that the leader has been consumed. And of course, the young have grown, so Godwin is no longer a young man. He's recognized as well, chairman of the coordinating committee. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I got the invitation to come and be part of the annual event, and I felt actually very grateful to the council. You have always invited me from the days that we've been, and I was speaking to one of you, and I remembered that I actually started as a banker 53 years ago. And the person I was talking to said to me that I shouldn't mention such figures. I said, why? He said he was overwhelmed because he wasn't around at that time. I said, if you were around, the world would have been much bigger. But I can assure you that being at this event is, to me, a very, very fulfilling experience. Fulfilling because, once again, one has been reminded of the grace of God upon one's life to have been part of this privileged group. Ladies and gentlemen, to be at the nexus of the financial system is indeed a very heavy responsibility. Heavy responsibility in the sense that you are called upon to look after that particular nexus of the entire socio-political and economic system that is so important, even for the health of the citizenship. Financial services is talking about principally money. And you know that money is so sacrosanct for the smooth running and the sound existence of societies. I can only use this opportunity to remind you that if you are entrusted with such a sacred assignment, the least you can do is to ensure that you uphold the principles upon which the profession has been built over the years. Integrity, and honesty. Society will evolve because the development of society is actually anchored on continuous change. One thing that will be constant is that as we change, as the dynamism of society changes, that is the center of everything, the value system upon which we all operate. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, whatever may be the fortune of society, the meltdown of economies as they may emerge, I want to remind you, as guardian of the sacred anchor, the heart of the society, protector of money, and people who actually handle money, that you should please continue to commit yourself to the essence of integrity, the essence of your profession. Bankers, in the time that we joined, are supposed to be very, very conservative individuals. Conservatism means, therefore, that it's not just by pretense, it is also by embracing the simple values of life. I don't believe that bankers, if they are true bankers, should be inordinately ambitious. You should be contented and satisfied with those things that are your legitimate earnings. I want to encourage you that it is in modesty, it is in simplicity, it is in contentment that you can continue to earn the honor that is deserved by your profession. I speak today about ethics. I speak today about integrity. I speak today about honor. These are the basic values upon which you can all thrive and indeed continuing to be custodians of money and financial services. Thank you for letting me be part of this. When you are in a conference like this, which is annual, it's an opportunity to network, it's an opportunity to exchange notes, it's an opportunity to also consolidate on relationships that I assure you that I'm satisfied and encouraged by what I'm seeing. And as I'm growing younger and younger, I can assure you that we'll be together for years and years, and Nigeria will be a stronger place, a place that is going to thrive and continue to excel as a very, very successful and sound economy and a lovely society. Thank you very much.
Not just thank you, but I say amen. He started on a note as an icon, but he ended not just as an elder statesman, but as a prophet. And to everything you have said, sir, amen. At 53 years, that number is not just gold, it is prime gold. And he has made reference to the fact that he's part of a privileged group, one at the nexus of a financial system, and it connotes a heavy responsibility, a sacred assignment of trust, upholding integrity, and honesty. Thank you very much, sir. Please, let's put our hands together and appreciate him. I'd like to, at this point, just before going forward, just interject very quickly, please permit me, sir, with the peculiar experience I had. Last week I was in this room, and like I said, I was privileged to be the MC of the Economic Summit. Being in such a position also affords you a certain privilege of making certain critical introductions. So there's someone I introduced to someone else who is an international CEO, and this person is a CEO within the agricultural enterprise in Nigeria. This was CC'd to me. And it is on the basis of what you have said, sir, and going forward, I want